Right now, as you read this, you're moving through space at 67,000 miles per hour. But that's not the remarkable part. The remarkable part is that 550 kilometers above your head, 7,600 machines the size of dining tables are screaming through the void at 17,000 miles per hour, an invisible web determining how every human connects to the rest of humanity. If you could see radio waves, the night sky would be on fire. Brilliant beams of data crisscrossing overhead like a cosmic spider's web, each strand carrying millions of conversations, videos, military commands, and desperate messages from war zones. Now imagine if two men, just two, held the keys to this entire celestial network. That's not science fiction. That's Tuesday, October 8th, 2025. In the time it took you to hear that sentence, Elon Musk's satellites traveled 140 miles. Jeff Bezos' satellites, what few he has, traveled the same distance, desperately trying to catch up. They're not just racing through space. They're racing for control of the most valuable real estate in human history. The orbital heights where physics and economics collide to create perfect internet. This is the story of how two billionaires are fighting a war you can't see, for stakes you can't imagine. Right above your head. May 23rd, 2019. Cape Canaveral, 2:30 a.m. While most of America slept, a Falcon 9 rocket stood bathed in xenon floodlights, heavy with 60 satellites that would change the world. Inside SpaceX Mission Control, engineers who'd been awake for 30 hours straight watched their screens with the intensity of surgeons. One of them, a 28-year-old systems engineer named Marcus Chen, had spent 3 years working on a single component, a laser communication system no bigger than a shoebox. As the countdown reached 0, he whispered what every engineer was thinking: "Please work. Please just work." The rocket erupted into the Florida darkness, carrying more than satellites. It carried a revolution. Traditional satellites float in geostationary orbit, 36,000 kilometers up, so far away that your Netflix request takes half a second just to reach them and come back. It's like having a conversation with someone on Mars. Musk's satellites would orbit at just 550 kilometers, close enough that light itself could make the round trip in 20 milliseconds. To grasp the audacity of this plan, imagine replacing every cell tower on Earth by throwing them into space, teaching them to talk to each other with lasers, and convincing them to dance in perfect choreography while moving faster than a rifle bullet. Then imagine doing that 40,000 times. By December 2024, something extraordinary happened. SpaceX announced it had 4 million paying customers. A service that didn't exist 5 years earlier was generating $7.8 billion in revenue, more than the GDP of dozens of countries. Every 90 minutes, as these satellites completed another orbit, SpaceX earned $1.3 million. Each satellite contains phased array antennas, thousands of tiny radios shaping invisible beams of internet without moving apart. They talk to each other with lasers, sending data between satellites at 186,000 miles per second. It's like giving the internet its own private highway in space. No traffic, no weather, and the speed limit set by physics itself. And that's what should have terrified Jeff Bezos. While his Blue Origin rockets were still testing, while Amazon was still drafting plans, SpaceX had already won the first battle. They'd turned space into a printing press for money. April 2019. Amazon's secretive Lab 126, Sunnyvale, California. Jeff Bezos stood before a wall-sized screen showing Earth wrapped in red dots, SpaceX satellites. Each dot represented Musk getting further ahead. Bezos, who built his fortune on being everywhere before competitors knew there was a race, was behind. His response was Project Kuiper, named after the ring of icy bodies beyond Neptune, a message that Amazon intended to go further than anyone else. But naming something after the edge of the solar system is easier than getting there. The numbers were staggering. $10 billion for 3,236 satellites. Amazon launched a hiring spree that looked like a raid. Over 2,000 engineers, many poached directly from SpaceX with salaries described as criminally generous. One propulsion engineer left SpaceX on a Friday, started at Kuiper Monday, carrying years of secrets in his head. But Amazon had a problem money couldn't solve: rockets. Blue Origin's New Glenn wasn't ready. In desperation, Amazon bought 92 launches from anyone selling: United Launch Alliance, Arianespace, even 3 from SpaceX itself. Bezos swallowed the humiliation because the alternative was worse. Kuiper's satellites operate slightly higher, 590 to 630 kilometers, using K-band frequencies that carry more data but are more vulnerable to rain fade. Their beamforming tech dynamically adjusts signal strength like a conversation that grows louder as you move away. But the FCC's requirement looms: launch half the constellation by July 2026, or lose the license. That's 1,618 satellites in 8 months. As of October 2025, Amazon has launched 153. At their current rate, they'd need 15 years. When Amazon finally launched its first production satellites in April 2025, 6 years after announcing the project, SpaceX had launched over 7,000. It's like showing up to a gold rush after the other guy already owns the mountain. Welcome to the most lopsided arms race in history. Inside SpaceX's Redmond facility, satellites roll off the line every 4 hours. 6 a day, 180 a month. It's Henry Ford's assembly line for space. Workers in clean suits attach solar panels with the efficiency of pit crews. Each satellite costs roughly $250,000 to build, less than a Lamborghini, and can earn millions. SpaceX completed its 251st Starlink mission in April 2025. China, Russia, and Europe combined have launched fewer in 5 years. SpaceX does it for one project. Here's the killer advantage. When SpaceX launches Starlink, they're paying themselves. The cost, maybe $15 million per launch. Amazon pays $60 to $150 million. It's like racing where your opponent owns the road and charges you tolls. The next generation changes everything. Starlink's Gen 2 satellites weigh 1.25 tons each, 5 times heavier but 10 times more capable. They're designed for Starship, SpaceX's monster rocket that can carry 400 satellites at once. A flying building, deploying satellites like a dealer spreading cards across the cosmic table. One Starship launch could deploy more satellites than most nations have ever launched. Meanwhile, Amazon satellites are engineering masterpieces that might be arriving too late. They're Ferraris competing against Ford Model Ts, except the Model Ts are everywhere and they work. Orbital mechanics make this winner-take-all. There are only so many prime orbital slots. Every SpaceX launch claims a piece of space Amazon can't use. It's cosmic monopoly. Musk already owns Boardwalk, Park Place, and most of the board. February 26, 2022. Kyiv, Ukraine. Vice Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov tweeted, "At Elon Musk, while you try to colonize Mars, Russia tries to occupy Ukraine. We ask you to provide Starlink stations." 10 hours later, Musk replied, "Starlink service is now active in Ukraine." Within days, thousands of pizza box-sized terminals arrived. Ukrainian soldiers whose communications were jammed or destroyed suddenly had unjammable internet from space. Tank commanders could video call HQ. Drone operators streamed targeting data in real time. Civilians in bombed cities told their families they were alive. One soldier, call sign Phoenix, recalled, "We'd been cut off for 3 days. Then this box arrives. 20 minutes later, we're watching YouTube videos on how to disable Russian tanks. The Russians could bomb our cities, but they couldn't bomb our internet." The Pentagon took notice. By June 2023, the Department of Defense was funding Starshield, Starlink's militarized twin. each satellite a floating fortress, with encryption, sensors, and private networks for specific military units. Traditional defense contractors panicked. Lockheed and Boeing built $500 million satellites. SpaceX was beating them with units cheaper than a fighter jet's helmet. Amazon's counter was AWS, America's classified cloud. CIA, NSA, FBI. They already trust Amazon with their secrets. Kuiper's future satellites will link directly to AWS GovCloud, forming a space-to-server pipeline no one else can match. But the real shock is geopolitical. Nations are waking up to find their sovereignty orbiting above them, controlled by American billionaires. When India needs rural internet, they must choose Musk or Bezos. When Brazil wants to connect the Amazon rainforest, they need Amazon the company. The power isn't just economic, it's existential. Whoever controls satellite internet controls global communication in wars, disasters, and revolutions. SpaceX could, in theory, cut off entire countries. They won't. But the fact that they could is power beyond most governments. The numbers tell the story. Starlink revenue: $1.4 billion. In 2022. $4.2 billion. In 2022, 2023. $7.8 billion. In 2024, projected $11.8 billion. In 2025. Every dollar funds more satellites, which bring more users, which fund more launches. It's the same flywheel that made Amazon unstoppable, except this one's in orbit. By September 2025, Starlink had 8.5 million subscribers. 80% are recurring. $520 million per month flowing in like clockwork. Every satellite strengthens the network. Every customer cements the moat. Every launch makes the next cheaper. It's optimization at escape velocity. SpaceX already dominates aviation and maritime internet. 450 airlines, 300 cruise ships, 75,000 marine vessels. Installation costs alone ensure loyalty. Amazon plans beta tests for late 2025. If everything goes perfectly. Full service won't arrive until 2029. By then, SpaceX's decade lead will be untouchable. The question isn't whether Amazon can build satellites. It's whether there will be a market left. When every ship, plane, and village already runs on Starlink, what's left to sell? We're the same, just later. Won't win hearts or wallets. Let's zoom out. 2 men out of 8 billion are building a cage of satellites around our planet. By 2030, there will be more satellites in orbit than televisions in 1950. Every email, every call, every I love you from a war zone, all will pass through machines owned by one of 2 people. This isn't about internet speed anymore. It's about who controls humanity's nervous system. When Ukrainian soldiers needed communications, they didn't call the Pentagon. They tweeted at a billionaire. When airlines needed internet over oceans, when researchers in Antarctica needed to phone home, they turned to the same source, a constellation owned by one man. The asymmetry is staggering. SpaceX controls 65% of all active satellites, 7,600 in orbit. Amazon has 153. By the time you finish this sentence, SpaceX will have built another. By tomorrow, they'll have launched 20 more. It's not a race anymore. It's a coronation happening at 17,000 miles per hour. 5 years from now, your message will likely travel through space. Photons carrying your words will leap from your device to orbit, race between satellites, and return to Earth, all in less than a heartbeat. The company that owns those satellites won't just be profitable. It will own infrastructure more vital than roads or power grids, more influential than any media empire. We're witnessing humanity's first true space-based monopoly. And the strangest part? We're cheering for it. Because in a world where connection is survival, even a monopoly in space beats no internet at all. The war for the internet in space won't end with a final battle. It'll end with one side running out of time while the other counts its victories. Above us, thousands of machines race silently through the void, weaving an invisible web that will define the next century of civilization. The question isn't whether we'll live under a digital sky owned by billionaires. That's already decided. The question is whether we're comfortable knowing one man has his finger on humanity's off switch. And right now, 550 kilometers above your head, that future is being written, one satellite at a time, moving faster than a speeding bullet, in a silence so deep you could hear your own heartbeat, if you could survive long enough to listen. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe for more stories where history, technology, and human ambition collide. Thanks for watching.